Right now, if you said something stupid in front of the wrong person, worst case, it's awkward. Maybe someone screenshots it. In Nazi Germany, the wrong sentence in front of the wrong person could get you arrested, sent to a camp, or killed. So naturally, you'd assume the country was crawling with secret police, watching every street, listening through every wall. That assumption is almost completely wrong, and the real answer is stranger and darker than the myth. In 1990, a historian named Robert Gellately got access to something nobody had properly used before, the actual internal case files of the Gestapo. Not the propaganda, not the post-war rumors, the real paperwork. And what he found broke the myth apart. The entire Gestapo, for the whole of Germany, numbered around 32,000 officers. In the city of Hanover, a city of hundreds of thousands of people, there were 42 of them. In the Würzburg region, covering over 840,000 people, just 22 officers were responsible for the entire area. Sit with that for a second. That's not enough people to watch a neighborhood, let alone a nation of 70 million. So here's the question that actually matters. If the secret police were this small, how did the terror reach into every single household? Gellately found the answer buried in the same case files. In some regions, over 80% of investigations didn't start with the Gestapo at all. They started with a letter or a phone call from an ordinary citizen, reporting someone else. That's the part that changes everything. The Gestapo didn't need to watch the population because the population was already watching itself, for free, without being asked. A shopkeeper reporting a customer's joke. A neighbor settling a decades-old grudge over a property line. A man trying to get a co-worker fired so he could take the job. Gellately documented a case from 1943 during an air raid where a stressed civilian made an offhand political complaint to the people crammed into the shelter with him. Someone in that shelter reported it. He was arrested and prosecuted publicly, specifically to remind everyone listening that even a bomb shelter wasn't private. Here's what's strange about that. The system didn't run on a powerful, all-seeing machine. It ran on small, ordinary human motives: jealousy, ambition, boredom, spite, multiplied across an entire country. That's a more efficient surveillance network than any police force could ever build on purpose. But the regime wasn't only using fear. It also had a plan for the calmest room in your house, the living room, where a small radio sat in the corner. Propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels had it built cheap on purpose, a set called the Volksempfänger, priced low enough that a factory worker could pay for it in installments. Within a few years, most German households had one. Families gathered around it every evening, the way earlier generations gathered around fire, except this one talked back, weaving Hitler's speeches in between music and radio dramas so seamlessly that people left it running for the entertainment and absorbed the propaganda as the price of admission. But here's the detail almost nobody knows. The radio's cheap components gave it a short range on purpose, so it struggled to pick up foreign signals. That wasn't a manufacturing flaw. That was the design. And if you did manage to tune into the BBC anyway, that was a crime, committed quietly, alone, in your own living room. Early on, it meant prison. Later in the war, it could mean death. The safest, most private space in your home had become a place where turning a dial the wrong way was a capital offense. And the state wasn't only selling fear, it was also selling a future, which might be the cruelest part of all. Through a program called Kraft durch Freude, Strength Through Joy, the government offered cheap concerts, cruises, and vacations to workers who had never once been able to afford a holiday. Then it offered something bigger, a savings plan, 5 Reichsmarks a week, stamped into a little booklet, building toward a brand new car. The car we now know as the Volkswagen Beetle. Hundreds of thousands of ordinary workers signed up, proud that a government finally seemed to care about people like them. Not one of them, ever got a car. The war started before the factory produced a single civilian vehicle, and it was converted to build military hardware instead. Millions of Reichsmarks, saved slowly out of ordinary paychecks, disappeared into the war effort. The workers who paid for that car spent the rest of the war being told to sacrifice more for the nation, never told they'd already been asked to sacrifice for nothing. The reach didn't stop at the front door either. Children in the Hitler Youth were taught, explicitly, that the nation came before their own parents. Teachers kept track of which students came from homes where Heil Hitler wasn't the household greeting. There are documented cases of children repeating a father's private complaint at school the next morning, not fully understanding what would happen to him because of it. The state didn't only build a surveillance network out of neighbors, it recruited people's own kids to help run it. So, what was daily life actually like for the millions of ordinary Germans who weren't already targets of the regime's racial and political persecution? On the surface, it could look almost normal. You went to work, you listened to the radio in the evening, you paid into a savings book for a car you'd never see, and underneath all of it, you ran a quiet calculation before every sentence that left your mouth, a calculation most people alive today have never had to make. Who's listening? What will they do with this? Because in a country with only 32,000 secret police for 70 million citizens, the person most likely to end your life was never a stranger in a leather coat. It was somebody who already knew your name. If that surprised you, this is actually the first video in a series where we ask that same question about different moments in history. Next up, what it was actually like living through the cocaine wars in 1980s Miami. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and if you want more of these, genuinely helps get this in front of more people.